So we're all live. We sit down. Oh, itchy head. I've had to put my cloak on, it's a bit cold. So this is new to the channel. This is live streaming in the vertical position rather than the horizontal. Let me just go and see if I can find the live stream and check whether you can actually see me on camera. And you may be asking yourself, well, Bragi, what are you doing today on camera? Well, today I'm going to have a bit of a chat about what's on the table. As you can see, I have a number of Anglo-Saxons. And I'm going to talk about, I'm going to measure them, let you know about the length of the blades. And I'm also going to talk about the evolution of the Anglo-Saxons. It later on became the falchion. And later on, of course, in the modern world, I would compare it to a machete, which is a lethal weapon. So let me just multitask here. If you're new to the channel, I am Bragi. I am a Viking reenactor and historian and folklorist. I do love a good folk tale, and I also like to write about folk tales. So just bear with me. I'm trying to multitask and do too many things at once here. And I hope everybody's having a nice day. I've got a cup of tea and a cold drink because I'm quite thirsty. So bear with me. Yeah, so there's a number of weapons on this table. Let's count them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 weapons. As I'm watching one of my own videos, I don't want to do that. So let's just go to the channel. I'm just trying to see if I'm appearing on camera, because I got the camera with the back facing to me. That's the best quality camera, and I do hope that the quality of the live stream has improved because I'm using my new camera, my new phone, and yeah, I'm very impressed with my new phone. I'm also very impressed with YouTube Create. Yes, so you can see me on camera. That's brilliant. So let me just try to figure out how to pause the sound a second. Just bear with me. I don't know what to do. I have to turn the sound down on my phone. But this is so that I can interact with anybody and see if anybody's leaving comments. So I love a good Anglo-Saxon. Let's have a look. Which is my first Anglo-Saxon I owned out of this lot? It was indeed this one. This was the first Anglo-Saxon I owned back in the day. I think that's a sheep bone handle, so it's quite different. And this used to belong to a good old friend of mine called Seaxes, who gave me a lot of his Viking kit when he stopped doing the hobby. And I think I bought this off him. I think it was like £40 he wanted, and I thought, yeah, that's a bargain. And it did come with a nice sheath, but the sheath does need replacing. And it's got a bit of lovely wing and dot pattern on the handle itself. It just makes it a little bit more unique. And you can see the back of it. Oh yes. And I tell you what, it feels nice in the hand, which is an important aspect about any blade. And then I think after that, I think this was the second one I bought. This was from Turkey. You can probably see it's been overused because the blade is not straight. It has definitely had a lot of use, and it's bent here. And really, it could do going in a forge, but you'd have to take it all apart, which I don't want to do. So, and that is more in the style of a Norwegian Anglo-Saxon. You may be asking yourself, well, what does the actual word lang and sax mean? Well, lang roughly translates as long, or longest. There's another way of saying long in Saxon, and Seaxes is, of course, the name of the knife. And here we have a Seaxe. And after that, which was my third one I brought, so I have my tea stuck on my table. And it's going cold. I think after that, this was the third one I bought. Again, this one was from Turkey. I bought quite a bit of this excess kit. And this actually used to be in the old Sigmundsons. And I didn't know that until I saw him last year, and I pulled it out of the box and said, oh, that used to be mine. because it's handmade, I'd imagine, it's got, again, a very nice handle, wood, leather bound. Very nice item indeed. And again, it feels nice in the hand. But I got a bit of a bad arm at the moment, so I'm just beginning to get my strength back where I could use a blade like this. But still, at the moment, my tennis elbow is still giving me quite a bit of jip. And then at the same time, I was making Seaxes. I was getting the blades laser cut out at a factory I worked at, and that is one of my last ones I had left, which I've never put a handle on. And this is spring steel. I tried to start grinding it down, but just never quite got round to finishing it off. And then you can see another example of one I had made, but I kind of got the measurement wrong because it's actually a very, very large blade. And that's probably the biggest Seax you could probably have. Of course, this has never been touched. This has been laser cut out, and it's got to be ground, put a nice round edge on here, and it's got to be slightly ground down and tapered, so you get a bit of a taper on the blade itself. But I find that too heavy. And if you compare it to another Seax, you can see it's a bit of a beast. Then after that, I bought this on camp. It was £15, and it's a falchion. It's one of the very few weapons I've never really shown on camera. And it's much later medieval, more late 12th, 13th century into the 14th century. And it's very much like the machete of those times. And again, you get some very well-made falchions and you can get some very badly made ones. This is a very well-made one. If I can ever get my peace tie, which is this round here, which is keeping the falchion in its sheath. It's a sheath, not a scabbard, because it's flexible, it's not solid. There's no wood construction in this. So you just bear with me. Just go and check the live stream. Now, I don't know whether I could see whether there's anybody chatting or not on this format. This is a completely new format, doing it this way round. But, yeah. We'll try anything once. And slowly, I wouldn't tie it. That is a falchion. It is a very nice blade, but a little bit too late for the Vikings. And that's the edge there, the cutting edge. And again, it's very much like a machete. It's the same principle of a Seax, but it's just much later development. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. And again, this is a sheath because it's flexible. If it was a scabbard, it will have a solid backing inside of it, and you would not be able to bend it like this. And I added the peace tie. It was very cheap back in the day, and it's got a bit of Latin in it. In non mine or nomi ni die, depending how you pronounce Latin. I'm not brilliant at Latin. The only downside I don't like about it, it's got modern rivets. They could do with being replaced, but it means you've got to unstitch it, and I don't really want to do that. So there's that one. And then after that, we have this one, which is technically a sword. This is a Norwegian single-edged sword. Now, me and Ego used to debate this all the time, whether you could actually class it as a Seax. If you took the sword pommel and crossguard and gave it more of a handle like this, then yes, you could generally class it as a Seax. But because of these two features, it is more of a sword. And this is a very nice weapon. I do believe it's a Paul Binns, so it's excellently made. And you don't often see single-edged swords. It's apparently were the most common swords back in the day. Because I've had lots of machetes over the years. Now this is a very good example of what you can do with a machete. You can actually make them into a very nice sharp Seax, and you can see that used to be a machete. And somebody, I can't remember his name, but he converted it into a nice sharp Seax, and it's got a lovely handle. This is very, very sharp, and it feels wonderful in your hand. It really does. Oh yes, I do love that. So you can, I bought these for about £5, so I was going to, convert these into Seaxes at some point by taking the handle off, cutting down the blade, heat treating the blade again, And in fact, it wasn't. It was £3.99. It says there, which I don't think you could get a machete these days for £3.99. And I have used that in the garden. It's great for chopping hedges and bushes, but you've got to be very careful again. And again, the handle just feels wonderful in your hand. So where to next? So after that, I've not brought many Lang-Saxons for a long time because I had quite a few years off from reenacting when I was a carer. So the first one I brought recently was this one. This is one from Gotland. So Gotland Viking style Lang-Sax. Got a very nice handle. This was about £80, I think. It didn't come with a sheath though. So that's another project for another day. And then last year, I thought to myself, well, I'm going to go and treat myself and buy a couple more Lang-Saxons. But this time I bought a Carolingian Lang-Sax, which is this one here, I do believe, although I made wrong because I can't quite remember everything. And not being used yet in combat. Again, it feels very nice on the hand. It's got a very simplistic handle. And at the same time, I brought this one, which is the Merovingian Lang-Sax, and a double-handed Lang-Sax, so it's got a much longer handle compared to this one. I'm sure you agree. Very nice and unique. So what I will do a little bit of a live stream in this format, and then I'm going to switch over and start again in the other format. Another interesting item I have here is a Viking key to my long chest. Again, this long, or this tool chest or weapons chest used to belong to Turkey, and he sold it to me many years ago with a stall. It's a lovely bit of kit. It's down there, you can't see it. So that's Lang-Saxes. So let's measure a few of these things, because that's partly what I'm doing today, is measuring them. And at some point I am thinking about developing a very more professional video when it comes to covering this subject, and I'm thinking about it at the moment. So we'll start with this one first of all. So this measure, I'm going to do it in inches. This one measures 22.5 inch. And if we're lucky, we can convert it to either side, and that is around about 60 centimetres. So the next one we'll measure is this Viking sword, single edge. Make sure we measure it right. There we go. And this one measures 26.5 inches, which is round about 70 centimetres. This is a nice bit of kit, this. So the next one we'll measure this one next. If anybody is ever been interested in the length and sizes of these weapons, then this is the video for you. So this one measures, again, 24.5 inches, which works out at 62 centimetres in length. And then we'll go to this one, which is more of an Anglo-Saxon Seaxe and a Viking, but again, could be used by both. Now this one measures 24 inches, which you'll find is 61 centimetres. And we'll go to this one here, the Carolingian, which is a bit shorter. This will be 21 inches, and that's going to be, oh, wait a minute, that's going to be 56 centimetres in length. We'll measure this one, the one I've never finished. One day I may finish it. So this one measures 21 inches, which again, when you convert it, it's going to be 53 centimetres. And then we'll go and measure this one. Now, I often describe this one as a broad Lang-Sax. And I do think the correct term is Bretta Lang-Sax, but I could be wrong on that. It's one of those questions that me and Eggle debated a lot, but I've not quite got the correct answer. So this one measures, we'll measure the handles next. Just turn it over. This one measures, 1 minute, wrong way round. I would hope I've got it the right way round. I hope I'm measuring it the right way round. I have. So this one measures 22.5 inches, which again is going to be 57 centimetres in length. I think while we're here, we're going to measure the length of this Seaxe or Sax to the Vikings. I get it the right way around, just bear with me. So this measures 8 inch. So I'll knock my drink over, which is 20 centimetres or 200 millimetres. We'll grab this one. It's very sharp. And this one, unlucky for some, it measures 13 inches. And 13 inches in metric is roughly 33 centimetres. Now we'll grab the falchion. At some point I'm going to do some comparing videos to falchions to Saxes. Which of these two weapons would you take into battle? Would you take the Sax or would you take the much later falchion? I think I'd have the Sax. It's got a bit more length and this is quite meaty and chunky. This is great for fighting men in armour and in plate and mail. But like I said, it's a little bit too late for our period of history as Vikings and Saxons. So this one measures 18 inches, which is 46 centimetres. It's not the best water in the world. So that's a few lengths of the blades. And let's talk about the length of the handles on some of these. So this handle of the Merovingian or the Carolingian, I think this is the Merovingian. I'll have to check again and remind myself. So the handle on here is quite unusual. It's very long for a handle. This is one of the reasons why I brought it. So this handle actually measures 9 3/4 inches, which is roughly, I would say 26 centimetres. I don't know why, but we'll measure the modern handle of the machete, which is 5 1/4 inches, but it will work out around about 13 centimetres in length. The next thing we'll cover and measure a few things on here. So the handle length with the crossguard and the pommel measures 6 1/4 inches. And if I turn that over, that's going to be, around about 16 centimetres. So let's have a look at the crossguard. So the crossguard on this is 11.5 centimetres. And that will be, that's going to be round about 4 inches and a half, 4.5 inches. And we'll just measure the pommel, the length of the pommel and the width. So in imperial, it is 2 inches, which is 5 centimetres. And the width of it, trying to get it as accurate as I can, I would say is 8 centimetres, which works out at, that'll be probably 3 inches and 1/5 of an inch. And I'm doing it in imperial, just for anybody from America that uses inches more than centimetres. And there we got a notification. It's probably Eric sending me another funny cat video. I do have quite a few videos out tonight as well, so that's all good stuff. Now, one thing I can't see on here is anybody chatting. Oh, here we go. So let's just go and read some of your chats here. So we do have some chats. This is really good. So Andreas Newman says, greetings from Germany. Well, greetings. I'd love to go back to Germany one day. And Don Julio says, it looks good to me. And Don Julio says, use a tungsten bearing hammer bit on a hammer and straighten it out. Yeah, that would do it. And then we have a comment from Carmine Graves. Fencing killed my arms too, so I understand. Well, I don't think it's fencing. I just all I did with my arm was I just whacked it with something, like I bumped into something, and then first of all, after that, I couldn't grip anything at all. So whether it is repetitive strain injury from the jobs I've had, I used to be an engineer for many years, so whether that could be causing it, or whether it's old injuries from, let's face it, you do lots of re-enacting. I've had lots of smacks from sword and axes in this elbow. This one's covered by a shield, so that could be it. Well, it could be I'm dreading arthritis. I don't think it's going to be that. I'm not old enough, as I was joking to my neighbours earlier. So, yeah, but I am getting better. Now I've got a comment here from Chunky Monkey, and that's 55555, and a long time viewer on the channel. Hey, Bragi is live. I'm indeed. And I've even got a battery pack on the camera to make it last for a good while. But like I said, I never actually live streamed in the vertical position before, so that's entirely new. How are you liking it? Then we have a comment here from Rob Napier. It's a very good friend of mine and somebody I love very much to bits. Evening, Bragi. Do you like the Falcon style blade? Yes, it is a lovely blade, that is. And you know, at some point we'll talk about it a bit further on camera. I think it's one of the very few weapons I've never brought out on camera. And then Don Julio says, I'm taking note, thank you, sir. Yeah, we'll all go back and measure some more of these handles for you, because this is a quick way of me doing that and giving Don Julio the information he needs so that he can make better and more improved Saxes. I do like on a Sax a long, shallow taper rather than a steep taper myself, because I think this is more authentic than a steep taper. But I think it's down to preference again, and some of them would have had fullers to lighten the blade. And the reason why you have a fuller is during the process of manufacturing, it will push the blade out, and it will also reduce some of the material. So it's not a blood groove. So stick it in and put it out. That's just a misconception. It's just there, part of the process of the manufacturing of the blade. And you can probably see on this one here has a double fuller. This is probably a one that's been ground by a machine probably. But a lot of these don't have fullers. This one has a fuller again. This is a triple fuller. Just 3 lines just to reduce the weight. Of course, most swords have fullers. So, and then this one has a nice fuller, just to reduce the weight again. And then the one which is a broader Sax has no fuller. That's probably homemade by somebody. So let's just go back with your comments. So Rob Napier says, okay, need to check out for a bit. Talk soon, Bragi. Talk soon, Rob. Look after yourself, my friend. And then the last comment we got so far, I remember when Bragi live streamed like 3 hours solid drinking beer and telling stories. Well, those were the good days. And I did enjoy those days. And I think I got to do more live streams and definitely drink more beer on camera and tell you more stories. So, yes, I think we'll bring that back to the channel at some point. And I do apologise. I should try to get in a habit of doing a regular live stream. I know at some point I created a poll and I kind of put out the idea of doing one every Wednesday. But some days when you come back from work or you've been grinding away on YouTube making videos all day, you're mentally and physically drained, and I got to have my own time to sit down and relax and get some food. Well, so I won't eat. So, yeah. And it was awesome. And a reason why I did a lot of those live streams, because we wasn't a YouTube partner like we are now again, because we lost monetization. And so I did a lot of those live streams to boost the watch time, and it did work. And because in those days my dad was still around, so it was quite difficult to live stream as well when I was caring for my late father, Cyril. So, but he used to get into bed in the evening. I knew that he'd be safe for a few hours, and so I used to be able to go on and do the long live streams. Yeah, I'm kind of like that about live. Some days I love live streaming, but some days I still get a bit nervous about it, and I don't know why. Because after 2,000 videos on the channel, I should be not nervous about it. But you always think to yourself, well, somebody's going to ask you one of those complicated questions which you can't answer. And although, you know, I can answer most things and I've got a good set of knowledge, that some things I can't answer. But no, we're going to move on though. We're going to, you know, continue live streaming. And I know me and Eric have talked about doing a podcast. Would that be something you would like to see me and Eric develop on the channel? Because I think that will be, if we do it through Zoom, with me and Eric, I think that will be quite unique, because we've both got very good perspectives on history, and we could really cover some interesting subjects, as long as it doesn't affect either of our work situation, because we both work hard for a living, and so we've got to fit it in around that. But I keep seeing the option for podcast when you create or upload a video, it says upload a podcast. So I think we'll all look into that in the future. Now I'm drinking tea. I wish it was beer. And I don't drink as much beer as I used to. I kind of, I've been having a long period of not drinking a lot. Although I did go out on Thursday to one of my favourite pubs. And one day I'm going to do a little live stream in there when there's not many people and show you this wonderful pub, because it's got such character and there's all these tools hanging down from the ceiling and pictures on the walls, and the paint's all bare and falling off the walls, but the beer is wonderful. It's nectar of the gods. So I think I'll do that as well in the future. So let's talk about, let's measure some more handles first. So let's measure this handle as I get, so just lifting that up, I just feel it on my arm there. And it does hurt. But I'll go through pain and punishment for you. So this handle on this Lang-Sax, this is a solid piece of wood. And it makes you think how they would actually manage to file the groove, which you can't really see on here because it's on some of them you'll have the tang showing up, whereas this one hasn't. So the tang fits in here, and I imagine this is riveted on. I would think, at least I'd hope so. And this one here must be nearly 35 years old, and could even be more than 40 years old. So some of my weapons and tools are quite vintage. So we'll measure this handle for you. I was looking for my vernier gauge to give you more accurate readings on the blade width as well, or micrometer, because as being an engineer I do have tools like that in the house, but by the gods I couldn't find them. So this handle, I would say, is 5.5 inches in length. If I fit that over, that's going to be 13.5 centimeters. And let's look at the width and see if we can get an accurate width at the bottom. So I'd say that's 1 inch and 3/4. So I'll put my little finger there, which is going to be around about 4.5 centimeters. And then we'll just turn this round. Just bear with me. It'll make life a bit easier if I do that. At the top, it does taper in, so it kind of fits your hand. If it was straight, it'll be a bit more bulky in your hand. So you've got to think about that as well. So again, it's probably roughly the same size at 1 3/4 inches, 4.5 centimeters. And we'll put it this way, and we'll try to measure the width this side as well. And I'm also measuring with the leather. So if you take off, let's say that this leather is about 1 millimeter thick, 1.5. So you take off 2 millimeter, which is 8,000th of an inch, if I'm remembering right. So this one measures 1.5 inch, and that will be 1.5 inch will be 3.5 centimeters. So that's that one roughly covered. So I'm going to forget now what I've measured and what I've not measured. I don't think I've measured this one. So let's have a look at this. And I think this is a sheep bone, if I'm correct. So this one measures 5 3/4 inches, which is 13.5 centimeters. Because the width of it, when it comes down to the bone itself, is just about, I would say, got to be 2.5 centimeters, which works out at probably 3/4 of an inch. Have we measured this one? Let's measure this one. I mean, I can go into further depth and actually measure the length of the fullers as well if you wanted me to. You'd have to let me know in the comments. So this one, and this is quite nice because you've got 2 brass mountings. Now sometimes you'll find that this will be a solid cap, and sometimes it will just be a plate. So either way is very nice, but again, this will probably be made in India. So this is a cap rather than a plate. But some of them will have plates, like this is another cap fitting. And I don't think I've got one with a plate fitting on here, unfortunately. No, you can't have it all the time. And I'll forget now what I'm measured. So this one, the length of this handle, and I think this is probably a sheep bone or cow bone, and it's definitely being worked to make it square and round on the edges, and it does feel nice. this would be a really good starter Langsax for somebody that wanted a budget Langsax and not too heavy. In fact, I could use that, not suffer too much from my arm. So this one measures 5.5 inches in length. And if I turn it over, that's going to be, I'd say 14 centimetres, maybe 13.5 centimetres. We'll measure the length. It's going to be roughly the same length of the blade, which is an inch. So that's 25 centimetres. Let's have a look at the falchion. A much later blade, but yet this is what the Langsax eventually turned into. And again, after many, many years, it turned into a machete. So the falchion, let me put this over here. I need a bigger table for all my weapons. I mean, I've got more over there. I can get swords out if you want me to measure some swords for you. So the length of this falchion, and I'm going to measure it from the bottom of the crossguard to the top of the pommel, or the quillion, as we also call it. And the reason why you have this on the end is to give it balance. And the reason why you want a good crossguard or something like this, because during the later medieval times, when you're fighting, the sword will go down, but it won't catch your hand. I did kind of catch my thumb there, but don't matter. Sound tough. So let's measure this. So the length altogether on this in imperial metric is going to be 7 3/4 inches. And if I just fit that over, that's going to be 18 centimetres. Now the quillion or the crossguard on this will measure 4.5 inches. And if I just put that there like that, that's going to be just over 11 centimetres. So let's measure the round pommel, and we'll give you the diameter of this. So bear with me. And that's a nice sound, isn't it? It's a good sound when your sword sings. You know you got a well-made sword. So the diameter of this pommel is 4 centimetres, and that would make it, I would say, 1.5 inches. And the internal bit of the handle, we'll measure that for you next, Don Julio, I would say is 5.25 inches. And that will be 13 centimetres. But of course, often these are made for the individual, so some people will want a much longer handle, and that's quite nice, and some people want a shorter one. Now I can demonstrate this with this Viking Norwegian sword, and you can see it's quite a tight handle, and now this catches you, this does, and this has definitely been well used, because you just look at the crossguard and how bent it is up from compared to the blade. So again, this is over 35 years old, as a lot of my stuff is vintage. Again, this was bought back from Turkey, and somewhere I got a scabbard for it, but I can't find it. So in my opinion, and I do like to use this sword, but what happens, because the handle is so narrow, and let's measure that, the pommel catches on your wrist. So if you had a much longer one, it doesn't catch. Again, I'm trying not to hurt my arm too much, but this one does catch it. When you kind of flick it round and attack the enemy, it just catches. You get used to it, to be fair. Oh, dropping this. Let's grab this. So the internal handle on this, that says it's 5.25 inches, which is 13 centimetres. So that's quite nice. That's a nice size handle compared to this one. And you can see the difference. So it's always worth having that extra couple of centimetres in the handle. It'll just feel better in your hand, and you'll be more comfortable with it. So let's have a look at, let's measure this, and we'll measure the tang. So I don't know if I measured the length of this, but I'm forgetting because I'm tired. And then I'm going to read some more of your comments. So this one measures 21 inch in length. Like I said, it was cut on a laser machine, and 21 centimetres is roughly 73 centimetres, if I'm correct in saying. And the tang in imperial, it's probably a little bit short, to be fair. It could be a bit longer. At some point I've got to heat this tang up and stretch it out further, so that when it goes on a handle, it'll have that bit of extra room. And then I'll rivet it over on the handle, put a nice brass cap like on that, and then it will be firmly set, and the handle will never come off. So it will grow. So this one is 5 inches, and that's going to be 12.5 centimetres. So let's have a look at the width. Let's look at some of your comments first. Hang on with me. Don Julio, fine, I'm drinking beer. You have what you like. Oh yes. Well, I've got a cold drink and a cup of tea, which has gone cold. Some days I just want a nice warm cup of tea. Oh yes. And Don Julio says, this is everything I hope for. Well, this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this video, because I think it will be a fascinating video. And I'll probably look to make some short videos from this as well, and we mix this video. And like I said, this is the first time we've ever done a live stream vertically. And I think the next live stream, I'll do the same live stream again, cover the same thing, but in the horizontal method. So let's look at this. Again, this used to be a machete. This used to belong to Anglo-Saxons, and it's a wonderful knife, but on my hand here I got a very nasty scar from this when I was cutting some bread, because it's razor sharp, and I'm excellent at sharpening things. In fact, it's got a very sharp point as well, as I can feel my hand. So we'll just measure the length of it, and I've probably done that already. Yes, it's 13 inches, I have measured it, I remembered now. And that'll be 13 inches, it's going to be 33 centimetres. And just some days, just having that little bit of wing and dot and a little bit of patting on the end of your Seaxes can make the difference. Although what this needs, it needs a mount at the end, because the bone is deteriorating just a little bit. So at some point I'm going to get a nice bit of copper or brass plate. I'm going to shape it to this and then rivet it on, and probably put some homemade glue to finish the job off. But the handle is slightly tapered, but we're trying to get the best result of it. So it's going to measure 5 3/4 inches, and that's oh right, I've got them measured. So bear with me. Yeah, and that 5 3/4. This is going to be 14 centimetres, and again the width of that is going to be 3.5 centimetres and 3 centimetres at the bottom, which is going to be, well, that's going to be 1 1/4 inches to around about 1.5 inches. But it does depend on what material you've got to at hand. And I must say, my favourite handle out of all these is this one, and I've turned quite a few of these myself, and it just feels great in the hand when you've got a turned handle, because it will stop it from slipping out. Rather than if you've got just a straight bit of wood like this one, it's a bit slippy in your hand, where this one just wants to stay there. Oh yes. So I hope that gives you a few measurements. Let's go to the tangs next. Not the tangs, the fullers, or in the controversial world of swords, the blood groove. It is not a blood groove. So on this, the fuller is 17 inches. That will make it 43 centimetres. And on this blade, the Viking sword, the next one we'll measure. The length of the blade is 67 centimetres, which is around about 26.5 inches, and the fuller is quite a long fuller on this blade. I would say is 56 centimetres, which works out at 22 inch. So the next one we'll measure is this one here. This is the Carolingian. And this one measures 16 centimetres, which is 41 centimetres. We'll measure this one next, and then we'll cover the width of the blades next as well for you, because they all do vary in size. So the fuller on this one, the one which is slightly bent, is 18 inches in length, which works out at 46 centimetres. I'll try to knock the tea over. Sacrilege. Now, I think we've done this one, but I'll do it again because I can't quite remember. So that's going to be 41 centimetres, which is roughly 16 inch. And then after that, we'll cover this one here. This is the last one we got with a fuller. And the fuller on this one is 23 centimetres, which works out at 9 inches. Number 9, a lucky number. So that is the length of the fullers. So next we're going to cover the width of the blade itself, which is this section here. And some will taper and some will not. So we'll put this one down here, which is the Merovingian or the Carolingian. I forget, I should know, but I've not long bought it and I'm still getting used to these two blades. So the width on this, let's just make sure I've got the right end. So I'll just flip this over because I don't need all that out. So the width of this, I would say, is 1.5 inches, which works out at 3 centimetres. And it'll be the same all the way up. 1.5 inches there as well. So that's that one covered. Now I'm going to predict that the blade of this one is going to be the same, because it sure looks the same. So again, well, no, maybe it's slightly less. This is going to be a 1 inch and 1/8. And 1 inch and 1/8 is going to work out at, it's going to be 27.5 centimetres. And it's the same up here as well, so it doesn't taper off at all. So that's that blade. Let's just cover the width of the machete. And I've got a few of these. Fascinating tool, not a weapon. It's it's very rusty because I've been using it in the garden, and I did actually at one point leave it in the garden for some time because I forgot where I left it. And it does need sorting out. It's another job for another day. And this does taper. So at the bottom it measures 1.5 inches. This is going to be, I'd say 32 millimetres, around about just over 3 centimetres. And at the widest part, I would say it's about there, it is 2.25 inches. And that will be, I'd say that's going to be 5.5 centimetres, maybe a little bit more than that. It'll probably be 5.75, 57.5 millimetres. So we'll go to the one I've never finished off, and one day I may finish it off. An Imperial. This one measures 1.5 inches at the bottom, and I expect it will be the same at the top, 1.5 inches. And 1.5 inches, again, is going to be, just over 30 millimetres. It's going to be 33 millimetres, 3.3 centimetres. The next one we'll look at is the ginormous blade, which I never ever touched. I just had it laser cut out. I think it cost me, I remember now, how much did I pay? I think I paid for about £5 for the material, and I paid for about £10 for the laser cutting of it. So £15, which is not bad. What's that, $20? So we'll put this down, and it's a beast. It's a beast of a Anglo-Saxon. And I'll probably predict it will be too big. A lot of this will have to come down. It's just way too much metal on here. Unless you're like Thor or built like a brick shit ass, pardon my French, which will be an ideal for it. It's going to be too heavy for me and too heavy for a lot of people. So the bottom of it measures 1.75 inches, and that's going to be 4.5 centimetres or 45 millimetres. And the widest bit here, I would say, is going to be 2 inch and 3/8. I'll just give it to you in metric. That's going to be roughly 6.5 centimetres. onto the next one. Now you probably keep hearing this sword. I think one of them rings. I think it's this one. Let's just test it. So that one rings. That's a good sign of a sword when it sings. So we'll measure the width for this for you next. So bear with me. So that's going to be 3.75 centimetres and an inch and a half. And it's going to be just slightly bigger up here. It's going to be an inch and 5/8. And an inch and 5/8. If I had a calculator, I could really calculate it accurate for you, but I don't. So that's going to be just shy of 4 centimetres. I'll measure this next. Oh yes, measuring things on camera. Lovely jubbly. And I hope you're enjoying the recent content we're making. I am going out in my garden a little bit and filming some of these ASMR videos. Although for some reason I keep calling them AMSR, which is not right. And it's just me doing gardening work and show you what I'm doing in my spare time. And I know one or two of my friends, I've seen them and said, oh yeah, I really enjoyed those videos because I can just sit down and relax to them or make a cup of tea. And ASMR videos are quite popular. So this one at the bottom of this Seaxes or Sax is 2.5 centimetres. This is going to be an inch. Now this one used to belong to a re-enactor that used to play King Harold. Oh God, you shot me in the eye. And it does have a little bit of brass inlay here. You won't see it on camera, but there's 3 little lines here, 1, 2, 3 of brass inlay, where somebody during the manufacturing of the blade has made that. So let's just measure the top of the blade, and that's going to measure 6/8 of an inch. That's going to be what? Ooh, about 17.5 millimetres or 1.75 centimetres. Now, I think we've done that one. Now, we have not done this one. No, we'll do this one next. I'm going to say that's going to be about inch or, yes, that's an inch. And it won't, it's just going to taper up. So at the smallest, it's going to be 3/4 of an inch. So let's have a look. So inch is going to be 25.4 centimetres. And then 3/4 is going to be, well, it's going to be minus a quarter. So it's going to be right about 18 millimetres. Right, the next one we'll cover, let's just cover this one. I'm sure I'm repeating myself, but never mind. So this one measures an inch and a quarter at the bottom, and at the top it measures an inch and 3/8. So let's just try to work that out for you. So you're looking at 22 centimetres, 20 millimetres to 22.5 millimetres or 2.25 centimetres. We'll measure this one next. This is a very nice knife. Now this one measures 1 inch and 6/8. And 1 inch and 6/8 works out roughly at 4 centimetres. And at the widest bit here, this could do with a sharpen because I can see it's a little bit jagged. I have used this quite a bit. It's got a little bit of rust on here building up, so I need to sort that out as well. It won't take long. I normally sit down for a day and just go through all my blades and all my weapons and just make sure that they're nicely oiled and I treat any rust. So it's 2 inches here, which is going to be 5 centimetres. And then the last one we'll cover is this one. And at the bottom it measures 1.5 inch, and again that's going to be 4 centimetres. And at the widest section it is 2 inches, which is 5 centimetres. So that gives you a bit of a understanding and measurement of some of the blades. Now, have I missed any measurements out? Is there anything you want me to measure specifically? I do have a little sax here, we can measure that for you. And that is a little pattern molded Seaxe, and that's probably one of the most smallest Seaxes I own. So let's just measure this for you. Because some of these, you know, like the falchion or the sword, that's an awful lot of metal. So let's just measure this. So that's going to be 2.5 inch, which is going to be 2.5 inches, around about 6 centimeters. It's a nice little knife, but I can stab it in the table for you, but probably shouldn't. I've got to make a little sheath for that one day. So that's a few measurements for you, and I hope you're finding this video to be interesting. And there's quite a few blades on this table. And this is a Viking table as well, so it's authentic for the period. So we've got another comment here. Let's go back to some of your comments. And don't forget, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to give us a subscribe and like the content, etc, etc. You know all that probably because you're on YouTube and you watch videos. So Don Julio says, now I want to make a falchion sword. Well, they are very nice indeed. And if I ever get back into doing a bit later medieval re-enacting, then I've got a perfect sword for the period. Or is it a sword? Well, it's more of a knife, really. I don't know. Machete. I think it's a bit of both. It's a bit of a sword and it's a bit of a knife. So we got a comment here, and I can't read your name because it's in it's like Chinese. I'll probably get that completely wrong. It may be Japanese actually. And it says, "Greetings, everyone." So greetings, and it's lovely to know we've got a wide audience all across the world. So, yeah, there's one thing over here I'll fetch. You bear with me, and we'll talk about something quite interesting. Because quite luckily we're in my Viking film studio, and I've got more swords about. So there you are. There's the old Eirik. Here's another sword. Let's measure this first, and I'll talk about what I'm going to talk about. So there's old Eirik. He's been around a long time, and he's got his favourite sword. Got a bit of rust there, got to sort that. And one day, he's in battle, and his sword breaks here. What do you do with the sword then? Do you throw it away? Do you, take it to a smithy, a blacksmith, and say, well, make something out of this? Or do you keep it as a heirloom? And I think that's a fascinating subject. Now the length of this sword, this is a Paul Binns, so another top quality make, one of the most desired manufacturers of blades these days, is 27 inches. And if I measure that, that's going to be 69 centimetres. It's a very nice knife. It does need a bit of work because it's getting a bit of rust here. You shouldn't really touch the blade with your hand. So it's just got a slight bit of rust there. It won't take much to get rid of it. And I don't have anything to do it around here with. I've been neglecting my Viking weapons over winter. So let's talk about the width. And then we're going to talk about, I see this fall down in a minute. I've got weapons everywhere. So the width of this sword, and I say that's going to be, well, an inch, probably more, 1.25 inches. So this one measures, slightly more. It's 1 inch and 3/8. And again, that's going to work out at around about 3.5 centimetres. And it will taper off. So it's going to be, up here, it's going to be 1 inch and 1/8 at the very top. Let's just measure the fuller. So there you go. You got your old sword. It's broke at the top through battle. What do you do with it? And this is one of those questions I often think about. So let's just measure the fuller for you. So the fuller on this measures 24 inches, which is round about 61 centimetres. We'll measure the handle next. So the handle length in total with the crossguard and the pommel measures 6.5 inches, which works out at 6.5. No, it doesn't. It works out at 16.5 centimetres. Then you made a big mistake then. And we'll measure the crossguard for you and the width. I know what that is. That's around about 12 millimetres, 1.2 centimetres, half inch. but the width of it again measures 5¼ inch. Yep, 5¼ which is 14 centimeters. So there you are. You got your sword. It's broke. What do you do? Well, I posed this question some time ago with this sword. This used to be one of Seaxes, and the blade was broken. It used to be quite a bit longer. Again, this is a Paul Binns. You don't often have Paul Binns blades break and snap, but Seaxes and Neo did Viking demonstration at schools for a living, so they was out 3 or 4 times a week using their weapons, more than most people would as a reenactor. As a reenactor, you're probably lucky to do 10 weekends a year, and you might do, same again, 10 training sessions. So if you're getting out 20 times a year with your sword, that's quite a lot. But Seaxes and Neo, and also Egil, he also worked for them a little bit, they could do that in a month. So they did go through a lot of swords. They don't last forever. There's a limit on how many times you can smack somebody. And if you listen to this, it's got a nice ring again. Another sign it's a good quality make. And it's got a lovely, lovely balance to the pommel as well. And it feels nice in the hand. Now, I never use this for combat because it's too short, but I do like to have a go one day. So what you could do with a broken blade, you could, grind it down, sharpen it at the points and hand it to your son, let's say. Or you could say, well, you take it to a smithy and you say, right, I got this blade. You would save the parts. They will be reused on another sword because there's no point making them into anything else because they have value. And it's quite interesting when you look at the Staffordshire hoard. In that hoard, they found lots of mountings on swords. Lots of these. A lot of them were made out of gold. But what they did not find in that hoard was blades. And that told you something about the time period. It told you that the Vikings and the Saxons regarded the blade, most of them were pattern molded, in fact all of them probably, they regarded the blade far more than the gold and the gilt and the nice fancy handles they had, or crossguards and pommels. So they will scrap these bits if they were made out of gold. We melt them down. If they're made out of iron, they will put it on another sword, or the smithy would put it to one side, and 10 years down the line, he'll say, oh yes, I'm making a sword, and I remember I got a nice crossguard and a pommel. Oh, we use them. And that may be part of the payment for the blacksmith to say, right, you break your sword, you take it to a smithy, you say, right, I want you to make me some Seaxes or Saxes out of the blade. And so you'll cut it, heat it up, fold it over, and make it into a new little blade. So that could happen. And I suppose in theory, you could also make a broken sword into a Langsax, because if you look at that, that's shorter than that. So that's another option for broken swords. You see, it's got a nice sound to it. So, and I think at some point we'll think about demonstrating that in combat to see how useful it would be. But of course, compared to another sword, it just doesn't have that reach, and that extra reach. So those 7 inches, those 20 centimeters will make a difference in the battle. So, yes, a fascinating and wonderful subject. Now, does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask me whilst I'm here, live on camera, as I finish my tea off and think about what I'm going to have for my dinner? Ah, lovely. I do have a bearded axe as well on the table, just in case any Anglo-Normans or Saxons come in my house when I'm filming, because you never know. So we've got a comment here from Vladimir Kovacevic. He says, do you have long Seax? Oh yes, I've just been talking about them. There's one long Seax or Langsax. This is a Merovingian, so an early Frankish Langsax. We have a Viking Langsax from, I think it's Gotland. I could be wrong. It could be from one of the other islands. We have a broader or a better Langsax. Again, this is a right beast of a weapon. They've been very, some of these will be older than you guys. We have a very meaty Sax which is being cut out in a lathe machine. This is spring steel EM45. That's never been finished. It's too big, that is. I have a Norwegian style Langsax, generally because of the handle, but that could be Swedish, it could be Norwegian, Danish. These sort of handles would have been used quite heavily, and it just feels nice. So this one I'll describe as the early Saxon Langsax. One of my favourite ones. In fact, I've used this a lot on the battlefield. I used to have it as a spare weapon. I'd have a sword on this side and a Langsax down here, just in case. This is probably a little bit excessive for the period. Generally, if you cannot afford a sword, if you don't have the coin, the money, you might be able to afford a Langsax. And then over next, let's remove that. Cup. Or we've got something that late. So the Langsax developed over time, and it developed into the falchion. It's technically not a Langsax, it's not a sword, it's a falchion, it is what it is. So the next one we'll look at, this is a Seaxes. This is a bit controversial because some people will say that is a Langsax in theory, because a Langsax is a single-edged blade. It's funny that none of these Langsaxes are double-edged. They're all single-edged blades. So this one, I know me and Ed always debate this all the time, whether it's a Langsax or a sword. It's both, I would say. If you took away the pommel and you took away the crossguard and you just have the bare length of the blade, it kind of looks a bit like this. Apart from it's got the opposite taper, it's got a rounded edge, which kind of makes it more of a sword. And then after that, we've got this one, which is a Carolingian Langsax. So those are my Langsaxes I own. And I would like to own some more. I don't own a pattern welded Langsax because I know Don Julio showed me two on his channel. And I do recommend going out, checking out his 2 videos he's made. Give you a little bit of a shout out there, Don, because it all helps in the bigger world of content. I don't have a pattern welded one. Not yet. I might one day, I do have a pattern welded store, but I left it upstairs. Oh. So let's just go back to your comments. So Vladimir says, I love Langsaxes. They are so awesome. Yes, they are. And they're so, underrated as well as a weapon because, they're wonderful. I mean, that's a wonderful weapon, that is. That really is. And the thing is, you wouldn't really want to use it for anything other than fighting. Whereas a machete, you could chop down bushes and hedges and get rid of bramble. This is great for getting rid of bramble and to use it for that. But you wouldn't want to do it with a Langsax. And all of my Langsaxes are blunt. They're for combat. So they'll have a round hedge. And then what happens when you go to a weekend, you'll have a training officer and they'll check your weapons. They'll run their hand along your blade. They'll look for burrs and your sharp edges. And if you've got some burrs, they'll say, right, you've got to sort that sharp there. Because one little burr could really hurt somebody. So you have to make sure they're safe all the time. So these are round, which is why I can run my hand along them. Whereas this blade is sharp, and I would not want to run my hand along that because I'm going to cut myself, and I have done. I've got scars on my hand from this blade. This is really good for, chopping your meat and chopping your bread and your veg. And of course, again, as a last resort, for the Vikings and the Saxons, and not us as modern Vikings, this would be an ideal weapon. And again, it's a lot of metal compared to that Seaxe, and also compared to this re-enactment blunt Seaxe. It's a lot of weapon. But like I said, it used to be a machete. So if you're at car boot or you're at a market and you see a machete, it is a great way to buy a nice blade which has already been heat treated. As long as you don't overheat it when you do your work and you get the shape, then you're laughing really, and you're going to end up with a very nice Langsax. Of course, you have to replace the handle, and that is razor sharp. It does need a bit of work. And I do own a lot of weapons, as you can see. It's because I've been reenacting for 30 years. So you go on camp, and you know, somebody said, "Oh, I've got a Langsax for sale, 20 quid." Oh, I have that, you know, because why not? But let's go back a bit further in time to the Iron Age, because I do have a Iron Age Celtic sword, and I know somebody on the channel, Tree Tales, is going to be very jealous about this. And again, I've not really talked much about this on camera. Let's just show you a close-up if I can. Bear with me. So you'll see it's got a very nice leather bound handle. It's been fastened on with a bit of cord. It would have wood underneath. And this is actually one being made by a blacksmith. So although it's blunt, you probably wouldn't want to use it because it may bend a little bit. It's got an iron crossguard and a bronze pommel with a bit of design on it. And it's a very nice old sword. This again used to belong to Turkey, so this will be a late Iron Age, pre-Viking sword. Also very good for the Celtic period as well. And at some point, what I want to do is get some leather on this and bound this nice scabbard. It's a scabbard because it's solid compared to a sheath. Again, people get this wrong on TikTok and videos when they make a scabbard and the scabbard's not a scabbard, it's a sheath. This is a sheath because it's flexible, it bends. And again, it's got a nice mounting at the end with a figure of, well, it kind of looks a bit like Odin, probably not. And again, it's got a nice bit of decoration at the end, at the bottom. But this is a scabbard because it's solid, it won't bend. So I'm going to cover that in leather. I have some kind of bolt mechanism so I can hang it, and at some point I'm going to develop a Iron Age impression for the Celtic period, and that is a very nice sword. In fact, I never used that for combat, and I don't know whether it would withstand it. It may do, but it has been properly made by a blacksmith. You can just see all the hammer marks on it, and again it's a little bit rusty because it's been sitting in my house for many years. So there's that. Bear with me. We'll go a little bit further in history now, as I go and sit down, and we'll talk about the Anglo-Normans. Now, I do own 2 blades of the Anglo-Normans, but 2 of them are still wrapped up in their wrapping was a brand new, and I got to unbox them at some point, so that'll be another future video. But I do have this Anglo-Norman blade from, I'll probably say, the late 11th to early 12th century. This is a sharp sword, and this was actually made by Paul Binns, I do believe. Or it could, yeah, I think it is a Binns blade. And this is based on a archaeological sword that was found in an Anglo-Norman grave. And it's got some really nice features, which you probably won't see on camera. Let's just come forward again and show you this wonderful, wonderful blade. I'm actually not going to touch the blade because it's so shiny, and you wouldn't want to use it because it does have a sharp edge, so you'll do it really hurt yourself. But one of the nice features is it's got an inlaid cross, so we know it's Norman because of that, and because the Normans were Christians. And it's also, which you can't see, it's got some nice inlaid brass pattern down here, and then on this little cross guard, the ends have been turned into wolf heads, so they're little wolf heads. So that's a really, really nice blade. And again, I don't like to touch it because it's so shiny. And the thing is, you got a lot of grease on your hand. So when you demonstrate to somebody, if you're wearing a hat, you're going away, when you demonstrate and show somebody the public, don't let them handle your blades. Always hold the blade by the edge if it's not too sharp. Because if you do, you're going to get grease from your fingerprints. Then what you'll find, you have like fingerprint marks all over your sword. It's not very nice. And the only downside about it, again, it's got a bone handle, but the bone at some point has chipped away and broke up and been re-put back on again. It probably during the stage when it was manufactured, it probably slightly chipped. Unfortunately, it's either remake it again or just put up with it. You'll put up with it. Again, it feels nice in the hand. And the Normans, you know, how much we, as Vikings and Saxons, we don't like the Normans because of the end of the Viking Age. They did make some very nice kit. And again, that is a really, really nice blade, is that. I think it goes into this scabbard here. It's not the right scabbard for it, or sheath. I've got to make a new one, but it's what it came in. And you can see the bottom's broken. So this will probably be recycled into. I may even use this sheath for one of my Saxes and make a new one for this. Let's have a look. Will it fit any of them? So that one's going to be too short. So maybe, let's have a look. Does it fit this one? It won't fit this one. We'll try it. Oh, it's not too bad on that. So I'm just thinking whether this damage at the bottom, whether I could sew it up and use it on another sword. Although I've already got a sheath in development for that one. So let's try one of these Saxes. So we'll fit into one of these. Again, that's quite short and gives me a bit of room to adjust it. So that could maybe go in there. That one won't fit in, it'll be too wide. That's too short. Let's look at this Carolingian one. So again, it's got a bit of play. So I could actually convert that scabbard and save it for another sword. So, oh yes. So Vladimir says, and I'm not sure I've seen you on the channel before, so a very warm welcome to Northworthy. And it says, beautiful scabbard and handle. Yes, it is indeed. And I'm quite lucky. I do own quite a few swords. Let's have a look at some more. You just have to bear with me while I have to stand in front of the camera. So here we have another one. This is another Paul Binns. This is a very nice sword for fighting with. And let's just see whether it wings or not. So that's a nice singing, winging sword. Again, if your sword sings like that, you know it's a good sign. And Paul Binns makes some really wonderful blades. And they're not cheap now. I'd imagine, for a Paul Binns blade, you're looking easily £500. But I've not been on his website for many years. So that's another one of my swords. And I've used that one for combat quite a bit as well. I need a bigger table. So, yes. Do you have any questions for me whilst I'm still here? There's a weapon here. Look at that one. This is a modern meat cleaver. But they had these sort of things back in the day. And I used to use that on camp for chopping meat and stuff. Again, very, very sharp. Let's just put the falchion back in its scabbard. Or sheath, it's a sheath. I'm forgetting myself now. And we'll just talk about what this is here. So when I got this, I didn't have a piece tie. So when I used to carry it, it had a habit of falling out. It's a little bit loose in the scabbard. So I just got a bit of leather cordage so that I can fasten it around here like so, and tie it round again. And what I've got two little glass beads just to put a little bit of weight on the cord. And then when I'm using it, because it's very important you have ties on your weapons when you're walking about. Now when King Arthur was about, he brought about a law in Wessex saying that you had to have a peace tie on your sword. So it does make you think, if you was caught without your peace tie, how much trouble you'd get into. So again, when you're walking about, by having it fastened, you're never going to lose your blade. It does make you think how many blades would have been lost. I can demonstrate with this, although it's the wrong way around. So you got your Seaxes. If it's a bit loose and you're walking about, it's going to fall out on the ground. If you don't notice it, you're going to lose your knife. Although luckily this one, when it goes in this scabbard, it fits really nicely in there. So yeah, and I'm wearing Eggles bolt at the moment, and I've got Eggles sharp Seaxes. Because I must say, this is the best bolt system I've ever seen in my life. It's such a thick bolt, And actually, this is a boat from World War One. It used to be his great granddad's army boat, and he converted it into a Viking boat. So it's 100 years old, this bit of leather, and it's been rolled up after. And I'm just wearing it today because it's the only one I could find I could put on. And it's lovely. Got a really nice mounting or a strap end, and look, it's got a couple of pouches with some of Eggle's bits in there. So it's my little way of remembering Eggle. I just noticed down here I got something very awesome. How about that then? My Coppergate home. That's lovely. That's an Ivor Lawton copy. It's a museum copy quality piece. Let's bring it up to the camera and you can have a closer look, because you're not going to see something like this very often. It's got cheek plates. It's a Saxon helmet, so it's an earlier helm. When they found this in the ground at Coppergate in York, it had a saw mark here. So somebody tried to test the brass or the bronze. It's brass, I think. It's brass. And then decided, oh, I'm going to put that to one side, and then they probably forgot about it. And it's got an inscription over there, which I can never actually remember what the inscription says. If Turkey was there, he would know. Now, the only downside about this is the aventail, or the chain at the back, isn't riveted. If that was riveted, it would be even better. But you look at the shine on that and the polish, that's just wonderful. When I think about earlier homes compared to later homes, is that when you're attacking, and I try not to do this too heavily, is that your sword will bite into your helmet because there's nothing to taper it down. So the helmet developed and got much more of a peak, so that when you got hit on the helmet, the sword glanced down rather than dug in. And that's a wonderful bit of kit. The tea over now. Oh, good God. By the gods. Bad tea. Right, on that point anyway, of me spilling tea, I'm going to say goodbye and end the live stream because I've got things to do and I need to mop up the tea on my table. Oh, what a sacrilege. I'm English and I'm spilling tea. It's almost as bad as spilling beer. But yes, read any more of your comments. I've got a couple more comments to read. These go to Chunky Monkey 55555. And I always remember how many fives there are. And it says, I was going to say about that, a noble home. Yes, it would have been a home of a prince or a king. It would have been one of the Northumbrian Saxon kings would have had this helmet. So, yeah, splendid bit of kit. Yes. Be careful not to get tea on my home. So, I need a cloth, quick. I don't have one. So, and he says, ha ha. So, at that point, I'm going to say goodbye. Now, I will try to come back in the next couple of days. We're going to do this whole video again, but I'm going to do it in the horizontal live streaming. And I'm going to do it so like I'm going to make a professional video and record it. So, watch out for that. That'll probably be Tuesday or Wednesday if I'm not too tired from work. And I'm going to go now and mop up the tea I spilled on my table. Don't forget to like the videos. We've got 2 or 3 funny videos coming out tonight, short videos. You're going to laugh over them. And we'll see you in the next video. Oh, look, it's been 1 hour, 20 minutes. Oh, 80 minutes. Now, of course, I've got to figure out how to end it now. See you next time, Bragi, says Chunky. See you next time, my brother.